it's so amazing to have the technique of grafting. It is a wonderful technique because you combine a very strong rootstock, which is drought tolerant, with a fruit which gives you a lot of fruits. Now we do on the video a little bit of an experiment. I never did it, and the literature doesn't confirm that it works, but we try. We graft on the Loquat a pear, a nashi pear. The thing is, normally a pear you can graft on quince or on wild pear. That's of course the best rootstock, but it's also common that you are grafting a Loquat on a quince. So from this understanding, I try out now a pear on a Loquat, just to find out. The Loquat is a rootstock which would be perfect for a pear because it's really very good adapted to this climate, which is very dry, very hot, and it grows very well. This is grown by seed, and as I told you before, it is kind of a combination of the best of two worlds, the best rootstock with the best fruits. People could say, oh, this is not natural, but that's not really true. It can happen if you have here a very good rootstock and a very strong or good fruit with a weaker rootstock. They grow close together, and when they touch each other, it can happen that through the friction of the bark, the stronger rootstock takes over the weaker rootstock with the better fruit. So this can happen in nature. Now I show you step by step how to do it. Here we have this nashi pear, and this is called cyan. This is the rootstock. And what you are doing now is you check a little bit that you have the similar thickness of the rootstock like the cyan. So the similar thickness is about here. They are at this point, they have the same thickness. So what I'm doing is I take my knife, and this technique, there are several different techniques how you make graftings. My technique is, the terminology is whip and tongue. So we make a whip and tongue graft. So what you're doing is you take this, and here you make a whip which goes like this. And it's good to have it in one cut, and then you do the same here. Also with one cut you make here a whip. And then you just check it's about the same size, which it is a little bit like this, that this part is now a little bit thinner than the rootstock. What is very important, that at least at one point they are really meeting each other, because the little layer which grows together is the cambium layer, and this is exactly the green part behind the bark. The tongue is like this. That's the tongue, and you do the same on the cyan also. You make a tongue like so, right? And now what you're doing is you bring in those together. about 2, 3, 4 buds, it's enough. I would say 3 buds is minimum until 5 buds. And you see, when they are together, they're already very stable, right? But we make them even more stable, that they are really strong attached together. That's important. And therefore, I work with raffia. People take different materials. I think raffia is a very beautiful material because it degrades, right? It's self-degradable, and you can really make a good pull on the graft. And I apply quite some pull on it, right? That it's really sticking very well the scion to the rootstock. So like this, I go like twice over, that's enough. And then at the end, I make a knot again, like pull it over here, then down through, and then one final pull, really pull, and then I can cut, and it should be then really stable. The next step is we take parafilm. That's parafilm. This is in order to protect the place where we did the cut, that it doesn't dry out, and we want to protect also the scion, that the scion doesn't dry out. So, and this is also parafilm. I love very much because it's also self-degradable. You don't need to be afraid that you have microplastic or something. No, it degrades completely here on the soil. That's very positive, and you do it until the top. You see, and like this, it's really wonderful protected already. And it's also like this, when a bird comes or something, it must be stable like this, that it's really no problem, you know, it's not wonky or so, it must be attached. Okay, the last step is, because in the beginning it's a little bit sensitive towards UV light, and until 1 month, until we have the first growth, we are just protecting it from UV light through tin foil. That makes the graft well protected. And I leave a little bit space, you see where the graft is, I leave a little space, because when I'm not so accurate and I'm not on the place, that it can grow a little bit inside here. Otherwise, when it's too tight, then the new growth gets squeezed. Why do people graft? We graft in order that we bring in the two worlds together, which are the most powerful one. The most powerful rootstock with the most powerful fruit. Because we are coming from an abundant environment, but we of course working on it, that we get it abundant and again, but at the time now it's still not in complete abundance, it's accumulating, it's perhaps in transition, and that you can already have your fruits in these transition times. You have this rootstock which are much more equipped to grow on such a soil. It is important that the top part is in the fridge and we have a little bit sawdust in it, because if it was out of the fridge, it would already, the buds would already come out. And it's very important that the scion, the part you graft, is in dormancy. And it's also important that the rootstock is already out of dormancy. You shouldn't graft on a rootstock which is still in dormancy, meaning is not creating any buds. All right, just to show you, here are two trees, one tree, second tree we grafted upon. On this one we did two grafts, and this is an apricot rootstock, and on the apricot rootstock we did peach. And here you still, even if you come a little closer, or you still have a little bit of the raffia. You see, this is the one we were wrapping around. Of course, the parafilm is gone. It's, as I told you, it degrades. And this is just in 1 year the growth. And what we did here, we hang a weight on it that it grows more horizontally. Because the fruits, they are growing on horizontal branches and not on vertical branches. That's why we train them in the horizontal. That's why we have also this guy here. It can go even more horizontal. Let me check. I think I need to make a weight here. And this is also here the growth from 1 year. This was the scion, it was that big, and this is the new growth. Here was the scion, here the new growth. What you need to do is, of course, from the rootstock, he wants to shoot here, you need to take away everything which in order that the rootstock goes not again in his old variety, you need to emphasize the new variety. You do that from time to time to control. Okay, and now here also we see also the training into more horizontal than vertical growth. Here this can go even a little bit down. The graft here was down here, and the growth from that tree is in 2 years. So it's quite a healthy and happy tree, and probably in 1 year we can harvest the first fruits. What we want in this tree, as you see, we want to train one branch that goes in this direction, one in this, one in this, one in this, that we have in all 4 directions, north, east, south, west, a branch. That's how we train the tree. This one, of course, we can train a little bit better. This one as well. Now you saw the basics, how to graft, and you saw also the results from the grafts, how it looks like. 1 year later we will see the first fruits. That's, of course, that's what we are aiming for. And of course there are so many different varieties and techniques to graft. I just showed you the one which is for me the easiest and the most successful.